people, they see me testifying in front of legislatures. They see me, doing these videos on social media, or they, see me sort of tearing down the arguments of, pro-choice activists or whatever. But there's also another side to me that I think people don't see very often. And that is this motherhood part of me, this wife part of me. And that really is my vocation, right? Like, my vocation is not to be a pro-life activist. My vocation is to be a wife and mother.
Abby Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
And you and I were just talking. You are sitting in your van because this is real life, man. This is real life. And you are a mom of many children. I have 4 boys, and that was a challenge. And you have 8 kids, and there you are.
I do. Yeah. 8. Yeah. You know what? 4 was a lot. And when I had 4, I remember thinking, this is a lot of kids. And yeah, and I have 8, and I'm sitting in my huge 12-passenger van. And yeah, my kids are out of school today. And so, yeah, and I'm taking my daughter prom dress shopping. I can't even believe I'm saying that, that she's old enough to go to prom. And yeah, and so I was like, okay, kids, you're going to eat Chick-fil-A in the food court with your sister, and she has some friends with her. And I was like, and I'm going to go do this interview in the van, and everybody's going to be happy in the food court until I get back. So that's
But
the
I think that
life,
is
that's
so great and so important because there are a lot of people, and I'm a mom. We have a lot of moms that watch us, listen to us, and it can be hard. It can be overwhelming to try to run a career while parenting, and so you're finding that great balance. I'm going to hang out for a second because you're a little frozen, but that's also what happens in real life. So it's just me hanging out here, hanging out with the Frozy Abby Johnson. Abby, I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe you want to hop off and hop back in again. Oop. Okay, well, while Abby's frozen and figuring things out on her end, I'm going to give you a little bit of background here on her and why I'm so excited to be chatting with her today, or even just seeing her, seeing her frozen face in her minivan. Abby is someone that I have long respected. She is somebody who has come such a full circle in life and represents so much of life for all of us. There she's popping out. She'll pop back in again. But she was one of the youngest directors of a Planned Parenthood clinic. She was working full on, high court committed to the abortion industry and doing her part to grow it. And I know that is a touchy topic for a lot of people, as well it should be. It is a very deep and profoundly personal issue for all of us, whatever side of the fence on that you're on. I am on the pro-life side, but I welcome conversations with people from all walks of life, as does Abby, which is great because she is someone who gave her life. Here she is again, who gave her life and dedicated herself to that. What's up, Abby? We're going to keep going. I'm just rolling. I'm telling people a little bit about, filling in why I love it. But again, that's real life. Like, you are literally taking time out of your day. You have 8 kids. You're at the mall with them. You hopped out to be in your van to do this interview. What mom cannot relate to that, especially in the past 2 years during COVID when everybody was trying to work at home with their kids? I mean, who cannot connect? And I think that just shows, again, there's a way around everything, a way through and around, and you just do it and you make it work, man. It's real life.
That is real life. And, that's what I tell people all the time. People are like, oh my gosh, like, how do you do work? How do you do life with all of these kids? And we have moms call us all the time on our hotline, who are pregnant, and they're like, I don't know how I'm going to finish school. I don't know how I'm going to, I already have kids and we're barely making ends meet, or how do we, and I'm like, you just do it. You just do life. And I mean, honestly, God makes a way. God always makes a way. He's always made a way in our life. And it doesn't mean that life is without sacrifice, but hard doesn't equal bad. And, having children has been the most amazing thing in my life. It's been the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, but it has brought me the most joy and the most grace. And I tell parents all the time, I mean, it's the hard part of having kids is such a short period of your life, and we're about to be done with all of our kids in diapers. And so while I'm like so excited about that, I'm also recognizing that huge chapter of my life, like having small children, is about to close. And, you think, oh my gosh, like waking up in the middle of the night and breastfeeding all the children that I breastfed and all this, like when you're in that moment, you think, oh my gosh, this is never going to end. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to sleep again. Oh my gosh, I'm going to smell like pee for the rest of my life or whatever, and then it comes to an end, and then you think, really, that was it? I mean, that was, wow, like this big chapter of my life is closed. Like, I'm never going to smell like pee again, or, or
another one day. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you just think like, wow, like I'm almost done having toddlers. Like, wow, I'm almost done doing this. It's not like you're never going to have another hard period of life. I have a 15-year-old too, and that has its own challenges, but like these challenges in life are almost done. And so I tell people, like, just keep going, keep going, like keep moving through this hard period of your life, because man, it will be over super fast.
In a flash. I remember thinking my husband was killed when my oldest was 6 years old. So I had a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. Right. And so it was a lot. And I feel like if somebody had told me that I was going to face that and I had the choice, I might have not chosen that path. Right. Like I might have said, no, I could never do that. There's no way I could raise these boys on my own. I would have maybe chosen another life. Right. So, but then you're in it and you do it, and then all of a sudden it's over and they're grown and they're gone. And I'm like, where did my babies go? It's so fast and it goes. And I think that is one of the things I love about your story and your book, is that you give hope to women in particular who are facing the very daunting, very real task of motherhood. And it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And I can, in a lot of ways, I guess I can understand why the women would find themselves at your clinics, because given I don't know what I mean, I cannot imagine ever personally going, but who knows, right? If somebody had said to me, hey, this is what you're going to face and you're going to face all these here, who knows, maybe I would have thought it was better off for these kids, or I don't know. But you just provide such hope, and you show women that no, you can get through even when you think you can't. There's options and there's support and there's love and there's growth. And I think one of the most impressive things about that, and I plowed through this book over the weekend. I love it. The lessons that it holds. Fierce Mercy just came out, because you speak about a side of the abortion industry. And when we think about abortion, we of course think about the babies and the souls being lost, and that's your first go-to. But honestly, until I heard your story and then especially read this book, Abby, I didn't really give much thought to the people that work there in terms of them needing support, right? I thought, even when I read your story, I said, "Oh, that's amazing and astounding that she went out." But there are some people who have the will and the strength and the soul to kind of take on those battles and go in there. And I think you're one of those people that, not that you don't need help and support, but you were going to do it no matter what, right? Like you're so. But for all those women or people who can't, who need that extra guidance and support, I haven't really thought about that. What is the feedback that you're getting on this book? I'm going to put it up here. Fierce Mercy. I'm going to get the camera angle right at some point. Fierce Mercy. And for everybody who comments, leaves a review, I'm going to send out a copy of this to the first 5 people who do, because I think it's such a special, important book. What has been the feedback on your book?
It's been really positive. I mean, the first 2 books that I did, Unplanned and The Walls Are Talking, those were really abortion focused.
Mhm.
So, I mean, they were, about, plan was really primarily my journey in and out of the abortion industry, and sort of like, sort of exposing the abortion industry, and really talking about my own two abortions, and then and sort of how I got roped into the abortion industry and how they rope other people into the abortion industry. And then, I did The Walls Are Talking, and that was a big expose on the abortion industry. It was like this big compilation of stories from within the abortion industry, like anecdotal testimony. Um, and so when I wrote this one, I really wanted to show a more vulnerable part of who I was. And, um, people, they see me testifying in front of legislatures. They see me, doing these videos on social media, or they, see me sort of tearing down the arguments of, pro-choice activists or whatever. But there's also another side to me that I think people don't see very often, and that is this motherhood part of me, this wife part of me. And that really is my vocation, right? Like, my vocation is not to be a pro-life activist. My vocation is to be a wife and mother. And and I wanted to have just a really open discussion about what that has been like for me. Um the challenges I've had, where I have failed as a mom, where I have failed as a wife, how I've picked those pieces back up, how God has shown me incredible mercy in those parts of my life where I have failed. Um, I wanted to talk about the souls of these people who are very unlovable to us, right? And how do we love them anyway? And how does God love people that we deem to be quite unlovable? Um, and so there were just so many things that I just really wanted to be honest about and personal about. And I wanted people to see that side of me, I guess. And so I did want to create something that was a little more transparent, a little more vulnerable. And, I think people look at me and they're like, oh, cool. Like, she's done all of these things. Like, she was a former abortion worker and now she's this pro-life activist. And that's great, right? But that's not relatable to me. Like, she speaks in front of hundreds of thousands of people a year, and she had a movie made about her and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is that, yeah, sure, that is me. But the most important part of me is that I'm a wife and a mom, and there is a part to my life that is relatable for everybody. And God's grace has been so evident in my life, in all aspects of my life, in all parts of my life. And that is the part that I wanted people to relate to the most, right? Not just the fact that I worked in an abortion clinic, but there's so much more to me than that.
Yeah. How hard was it for you to actually put yourself out there? I mean, in here, you don't hold any punches. You don't try to hide. You don't try to be this perfect being. You're like, no, this is who I was, and this is what I was saying and doing to Doug, and this is how I was with my kids, and this is what I felt or didn't feel. And it's like I think that you're going to make people just almost like exhale in relief, knowing that they're not alone, or that it's okay to feel that way or to be that way or do that thing. But how hard was it? Did you even have to consider when you put those things in? I wrote stuff in one of my books that I was like hardcore judged for and got a lot of hate for. So that's why I'm asking to see what was your response when you laid that out there and just said, "Hey, world, this is who I am. Take it or
Yeah, like
leave it."
I haven't gotten like any like real backlash for it. Like, I think for a while, like, I think it's actually been really refreshing for people, like, to see, like, oh, thank God, like,
Yeah,
like, somebody else said it, right?
yeah.
Like,
Maybe
it's
that's
not,
it. You say what a lot of women are thinking or feeling.
yeah, like, it's not just me,
Yeah.
and I think in another way too, I almost think I think it was almost a sigh of relief for some people to know, like me personally, that I was personally sort of struggling in this way, because a lot of people sort of saw me doing this and they were wondering, like, is she processing this? Like, how is she doing this? Like,
Mhm.
and so to see, like, no, there was behind the stuff, there was like behind the scenes stuff going on. And like, I was actually struggling with this stuff. Like, there were things going on that like you didn't know about, right? Like, I kept on this like big brave face for everybody, but like there was all kinds of stuff going on that like people didn't know about. I think that actually made a lot of people in the pro-life movement relieved,
Mhm.
that I had gone through pretty intensive healing, like, because I think people were worried, like, this person is out here speaking and she's doing all of this stuff, and like, has she even processed what she's gone through,
Right.
you know? And so I think for people in the pro-life movement, particularly like leaders in the pro-life movement, when this book came out, they were like, oh good, like, we're so glad that that was actually going on, for you, because we worried about you. But then I think for like just like the everyday mom or whatever, they were like, oh, thank goodness, like somebody is finally saying this stuff, because we've been feeling this stuff too. But people aren't, they don't feel like they're safe enough to say it,
Yeah.
without being judged or whatever. And that ship has sailed so long ago for me. Like, I don't care. So,
Yeah. There is a certain liberation about going through like the maximum amount of like intensity that you can go through and coming out the other side, because then you're like, well, you know, nothing's off the table anymore. Like
right.
what's the
Yeah.
worst?
What's the worst that could happen? Right.
What's
Like,
the worst what could potentially happen, and it's like not even close, so you don't even sweat that stuff anymore. All right, I have one random question to you that you had in this book that just made me think. So it may seem like it's coming out of nowhere, but it's not. But because I'm curious, you talk about picking up the medals for 8 years that pro-lifers left at the clinic and keeping them. I'm curious, like what, even while you were doing this and so committed to the task at hand and so committed to the course of Planned Parenthood, something in you made you pick up these medals and keep them, even though you had these like back and forth with the people at the gate and all this. Like, what was it that made you grab onto these medals and hold on to them for all those years?
I don't know. It was like, I think a part of it, like in the beginning, like it sort of started out as pride, because it was like, that is my sidewalk.
Okay.
That's my flower bed, and you are putting crap in my flower bed. And I didn't even know what they were. I was like, I don't even know what this junk is, but like, you're putting stuff in my flower bed and I don't appreciate it.
Okay.
And that's mine. Like, that's our property. And so get your little hands out of our flower bed. But then, like, once I started like picking them up and gathering them, like, I sort of started to realize what they were. And I was like, oh, these are kind of nice. And I was like, I don't want to throw them away. And I'd like taken the time to like wash them and like care for them. And so I like had them in this bowl and I would dry them off, and put them in this bowl. And I was like, well, I don't want to throw them away. Like, somebody spent money on them. And so then I just kept saving them. And then eventually I kept having to change bowls, because the bowl kept filling up and filling up and filling up. And so, yeah. So then like finally when I left, I was like, I don't know like why I'm doing this, but like, I'm taking these medals. Like, I have been saving these things forever. I've been doing all the work to dig these things up for years, for 8 years. So I'm taking these medals with me. And so actually I leaned over to pick up my wallet, because I keep them with me. Like, I keep um several with me like all the time, because this is a St. Michael one. Um but like, I keep them with me all the time, because I keep a few in my wallet, because I always like want, if in case like I go out to a clinic or something to pray, I always want to keep some on me, because I like to put them in the ground, if I go out to an abortion clinic to pray. So yeah, I always keep some on me. And then I talk about in Unplanned, like this girl that used to come out to the clinic to pray. And one time she left flowers for me, and she put a card on the flowers, and um it had said, the Lord has done great things for us and we are filled with joy. And I didn't want to take the flowers from her because I thought that would be weird. And so I like just ran into the clinic really fast. And then she like stood there looking sad with the flowers for like 2 hours. And then finally, she left and she walked to the middle of the driveway and put the flowers in the middle of the driveway. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, well, I cannot let somebody run over those pretty flowers. So I walked out like I was going to get the trash can. And then on my way in, I picked up the flowers and brought them in, and it had this little card on it. And so I had put the card like in one of those little file things. I had like stuck it in there. And so on the day that I left the clinic, or the day I decided to leave, that I went over to the coalition, like her name was Elizabeth, and she was a part of the coalition. And so I had seen that card like poking out, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's the group I need to go to. And so like I keep that card in my wallet too. Like it's just a reminder, and it's like Psalm 126:3, and it just says, I'm praying for you, Abby, love Elizabeth. And so I just like keep little things, you know, just as like a little reminder of like the goodness of God and where I came from and where he's brought me. And, you know, it's pretty amazing. So God's good. And that, I mean, that's really what the book's about. I mean, it's just God's goodness and his grace.
It really is throughout the whole thing. And I love that too, because we never know what small thing we're doing. We can think that it has no impact, that nobody's watching. She could have thought, well, she's just going to throw those flowers. She didn't know what you're going to do with those flowers. She didn't know you're going to pick that card up and hang on to it. So we just never know what impact we're going to have. And, you know, it'd be a shame not to make the gesture because we think that we just assume that it's not going to matter, because almost all the time it matters, I think, in a way that we may not never even know, but it does. All right. And I know we have to wrap it up here. So I'm going to ask you the last couple quick questions. What is your advice or your words to somebody, let's say a woman in particular who is facing a pregnancy, facing being a mother, and I'm really just scared out of her mind about it, whether she's whatever path she's considering. Motherhood is daunting, you know, and so especially for the first time moms or moms who are overwhelmed already with a lot of kids, or their situations changes. There's so many situations women are in where bringing a child into that just seems like, you know, terrifying. So what are your words to women facing that?
You know, I always tell women, over the years, I've met probably tens of thousands of women who have regretted abortion decisions, but I've never met a woman who regretted having her child. And there are many, many difficulties in life. There are, you know, many temporary challenges in life, whether it's financial, whether it's educational, or whatever it may be. But abortion is such a final decision to usually a temporary situation. And there are so many resources available for women, people who are ready to help support, who are ready to help accompany people on this journey of life. And I always encourage women to look for your local pregnancy resource center. And if you don't know where that is, if you don't know what resources are available to you, I run a ministry myself called Loveline, which is a 24-hour crisis line. You can just go to loveline.com. We have a text number, we have email, we have a phone number you can call. It's a case management program. We would love to help you. We'd love to walk with you on this journey and come alongside with you. There's just never a reason to make such a final decision about someone else's life. And especially when there's so many other options and so many people who are ready to support you. And I know it's scary. Like, I mean, I've had crisis pregnancies. I had my twin girls. I'm telling you what, I was 36 years old. I was married, but they were 6 and 7 for us. And when I sat there and looked at that ultrasound, I saw there were twins. I was in a state of panic. Like, I was in a crisis. And I know what it's like to be scared and to be pregnant. But having supportive people along the way and having supportive people to have your back makes all the difference. And we're here to support you at Loveline. So I would say that's one of the first calls you need to make if you're feeling scared and you're feeling alone.
Excellent. We'll put that link up in this interview when it airs and in the article as too. It's funny you say that. I'm a twin. I was number five, and so my brother and I are 5 and 6 for my parents, and they didn't know they were having twins until I came out, and there was another one. So my mom can
Gosh.
definitely, my mom can definitely relate to you.
Well, yeah.
In that one, Abby. Again, really, I appreciate you so much for everything you do, for taking the time to be with us today. I was really looking forward to this. I'm touched to have some small part in sharing the work that you do. I love this book. I'm going to keep it and read it over and over and send it out to our community as well because it's so important. So thank you again. I wish you all the best with prom season. I have a stepdaughter who's 16. She's going to the prom. Woo. You know, it's I get it. All the steps, Abby. They're all crazy in their own ways, but and then they're gone. So enjoy it and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good one, Abby. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.